Hello everyone! This isn't what I had planned for my first video, but this situation is going down right now and I want to stop misinformation from spreading. Because Korean feminists have managed to take over gender discourse in social media and now the Japanese ones are trying to do the same. But the former is something I'm going to talk about some other time. You can watch this video on the 4V movement in the meantime. Everything started because of a lolicon comic posted on social media. One that doesn't show anything explicit, mind you, but it has the caption, "That day I committed a crime for the first time," which is not something that comes from the artist, but the user who posted this comic because this work of fiction is 7 years old. And the person who posted this is not even the artist, he didn't create it. Maybe that's the title of the comic, I don't know. The point here is that this doesn't prove that any crime has been committed. And if you look at how many likes it has, it's over 70,000. Japan has 60 million men, so the amount of people who like this represent less than 1% of the Japanese male population. Yet, a Japanese feminist with many followers used this comic to claim the country is full of PDF files, with no proof or data about it, and saying that only men are PDF files, when Japan also has many women who enjoy Yota and Yaoi, and the latter tends to feature underage male characters a lot. Some of the examples they use to prove this issue isn't taken seriously in Japan ranged from mangaka Nobuhiro Watsuki to producer Koichiro Ito. Watsuki had possession of CP and Ito supposedly had over 100 victims that he groomed. But the first one had to pay an expensive fine just to avoid jail time, while the latter is going to spend 6 years in prison. So both of them had consequences for their actions, and now they will have a criminal record that can really affect their careers. Of course, when it comes to loli and yaoi, it's all fiction, so there's nothing wrong with it because it doesn't hurt anyone. And the crime rates in Japan are very low, but that's where the feminist lies began. Instead of using data and official sources, these women decided to make broad generalizations about their own country using a bunch of individual cases as basis, which is a massive fallacy, because that doesn't prove the country is full of PDF files, it just shows that those crimes happen over there just like in the rest of the world. What really matters is the rate in which it happens. Not to mention that the accounts behind it are incredibly racist towards Japanese men and very biased. There's some merit to this argument though, because Japan has a reductive legislation when it comes to these types of crimes, so official data shows a limited picture because many victims don't report it, and plenty of cases don't fit into the legal definition of these crimes. That's why I decided to resort to a different source, which is survey-based research. Surveys are the most effective way to account for victims that don't report, because instead of going to the police to file an official report, those who might have been victimized are asked directly about it. And what I found is very interesting. This source from 2024 shows that 1 in 14 women have been victims of sexual violence. When you compare it to America, official sources like RAINN.org show that 1 in 6 women have been victimized. This means that women in Japan are 8 times less likely to go through something like that. And this doesn't come from police reports, but from a study made by professionals trying to ask potential victims directly. But wait, that's not all. I also have this study from last year that shows 1 in 10 young people have been molested. That's sexual harassment, and this data includes both men and women. Okay, and how many women go through that in America? Well, the number is between 1 in 3 and 1 in 5. So, young women are 7 or 5 times less likely to suffer molestation in Japan. I decided to use this data because it's recent and it clearly shows that Japan is a safer country for women and children compared to America and the West in general. Of course, this didn't stop feminists and other people from bringing up examples like the child idol industry. And yes, that stuff is disgusting. But that also happens with child actors in Hollywood and child beauty pageants. Not to mention pride parades and the trafficking rings in the United Nations. So why are we criticizing Japan for this when over here things are way worse? Not to mention that a Japanese student disagreed with the feminist post that started this whole thing, and she was harassed for it and questioned, like she had people telling her to show her face and such because apparently all Japanese women must think the same. Otherwise, you are not really Japanese. Of course, this doesn't mean that Japan has no issues. That country has a lot of problems. The main one being how their population is overworked, making it harder for everyone to build meaningful relationships, and it led to an epidemic of loneliness and hikikomori, which is also the main culprit behind the country's high self-delete rates. But none of this can be solved by stigmatizing an entire population of diverse people and making outlandish claims like Japan is filled with PDF files, which is simply not true. What's more, all of this started after the Japanese government decided to stop funding the activities of the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, known as CEDAW, which is the panel at the United Nations that has been trying to heavily regulate manga and anime in Japan for many years, by endorsing censorship, of course. So it seems that Japanese feminists decided to learn from those in South Korea and start spreading misinformation that stigmatizes the men in their country by using a minority of cases. All of this just to gain power and stop creative freedom in anime and manga. This culture war is just getting started. Anyways, I don't really have much else to say. I am going to talk about South Korea and the misinformation coming from the 4B movement in the future, because I plan to use my knowledge in sociology and data to disprove a lot of feminist lies. Thanks for watching this video, hope you like and subscribe. Until next time.